How do you make millions of dollars and pay zero taxes? Meet Kriss, aka the car wash guy. Instead of buying tech stocks or Bitcoin, he buys car washes that not only print profits but allow him to pay no income tax.
Nothing. You're gonna get it all back.
In this episode, the car wash guy breaks down the actual numbers of a deal, reveals how you can use real estate to erase your tax bill, and exactly how you can make millions without getting your hands dirty. Or clean. Whatever. Welcome to Money Talks.
Money Talks, let's keep it real.
So welcome to the studio. It's interesting. Usually I'm sitting next to someone having a conversation.
Right.
Now it's like I'm just being filmed and then you're here on the laptop, but we're going to make it work.
Yeah, it's going to work, buddy.
Okay, so welcome to Money Talks. Today we have Kriss, the car wash guy. So you've made millions of dollars with car washes, and I want to hear your 1 minute origin story to start.
So, if you've been on Twitter, you've noticed there's like a lot of self-storage guys, right? A lot of self-storage sort of gurus and stuff like that. And probably about 2 years ago, I started listening to those guys, and I thought, I can do that. That's easy. So I found a friend of mine who was very interested in that as well, and we decided, okay, let's go buy some self-storage properties.
Was Nick Huber your inspiration?
Yeah, he was part of it, but there was a lot of guys, and a few of them I would DM with, like, how do I do this? There's a guy actually locally here. He's called the Sultan of Storage. And he walked me through his playbook. I was like, we can do that. But we followed Sweaty Startup, Nick Huber, and all these guys. And I thought, that can't be that hard. So we sent out probably 60 letters for following this method, trying to find off-market self-storage, and didn't get a single response. Nobody was interested in selling their self-storage. And so I had stumbled upon this car wash that was for sale a few months before. And I thought, I wonder if that thing's still for sale. Reached out to the broker, and turns out it was still for sale. And it had been on the market for a year and a half and had garnered just almost no interest. And so we dug into it, and it turned out this thing made a lot of money. And the wild part is that the owners had started a bank in the meantime, and they had no marketing. There was no Google Maps. There was nothing. If you didn't drive by this car wash, you didn't know it existed, and it was kind of tucked behind a shopping center.
And what city is that in?
This is in western Colorado.
Okay.
It's called Grand Junction, Colorado, close to the Utah border.
Okay.
It's kind of a small town. So we ended up buying the car wash, and we did the Google Maps thing. We did the most basic marketing you can think of. We just got a bunch of 5-star reviews. Just anybody who's has any to do with marketing would just laugh at this strategy because it's so stupid simple. And we increased the profit and revenue of this place by 70% in the first few months. So then we bought another one. This was all last year, okay? So I became car wash guy in January, but I didn't own a car wash until a year ago this time, last April 22nd. So we bought another one. We're about to buy another one. That'll be number 3. But the wild thing is that we were generating these incredible cash returns. We were able to increase the business. All we did was put energy into it, right? Like we did a little bit of signage, kind of the wavy flag signs that you see around. Those tend to get people's attention. It's kind of weird, but it works. Google Maps. We improved the card readers. We raised the prices. We did all this stuff, but we were able to increase the profits at both places in no time.
So you kind of stumbled upon
the self-storage playbook. What's that?
You kind of stumbled upon this, so it was really just pretty recently.
Totally fell backwards into it. Completely fell backwards into it. So it was making good money. We were increasing our equity in it. We almost doubled the equity we had in these places, and it was just a no-brainer investment. And then in December, I have other businesses. I have online businesses. I sell supplements, CBD, that kind of stuff. So I have a really nice income for that. And I was putting the profits into the car washes. So every December 30th or so, I always email my accountant and I say, how much do I need to set aside for taxes? I usually have a pretty big tax bill. It's anywhere from $200,000 to $300,000 usually. And she said, nothing. You're going to get it all back. And, I kind of did that sort of spit take thing, like, what? Like, I've never gotten anything back. I've paid huge tax bills for the last decade.
You're like, did I lose a ton of money this year and not realize or something? Like, what happened?
Right. Like, yeah, what? The books must be worse than I thought they were. Like, this is terrible news, actually. I thought I made a bunch of money this year. And she said, no, there's the bonus depreciation on these car washes is going to completely nuke your tax bill. And all the quarterly payments I made all of last year, you're going to get those back. In fact, I just got them back last week, so $140,000. So zero tax bill because of the bonus depreciation on these, which I can explain if you're interested. But so it was just, at that point, it was just a no-brainer investment. It was like, okay, we need more car washes. Let's just do this. Let's go all in on this strategy. And now we're going to create a chain of car washes. We're going to buy at least 2 a year for the next 5 years. So that was more than a minute, but that's kind of the background, how this happened.
That's super interesting. And okay, so just some background on like a car wash. So you're buying the actual business and the real estate. It's not just the
Correct.
business, right? And that's where the tax benefits come from, is from owning the real estate and the car wash business on top of the land.
Yeah, the tax benefits come from the building and the equipment. And
Okay.
it just so happens that the car wash is the perfect strategy for this particular tax loophole of bonus depreciation, because the land is worth a little bit and we buy it as part of the deal, but it's really the fact that there's so much value in the equipment in the building that's eligible for this thing called bonus depreciation. Up to 70% of the value that we're buying is in this equipment, which is depreciable on this bonus schedule. So I had no idea when we bought a car wash. I knew there would be bonus depreciation. I had heard about it. I had no idea that it was going to be something this lucrative and this tax efficient. So yeah, we buy the real estate, we buy everything with it. And so if car washes suddenly went out of style, or you don't need them anymore or something, I've had people say, well, what about self-driving cars and all this stuff? What about electric cars? Those will still need to be washed. But if for some reason people just stop washing their car, we have the real estate fall back on. We'll put a Chick-fil-A on it or a gas station or something, and we'll never look back.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I love real estate blended businesses because
Yeah.
if you look back like 30, 40 years and people who own a restaurant or owned, a retail store or something, it's like those might have nice cash flows for a couple years, but then like over time they just either become out of style or they don't work anymore or the staff changes. But real estate has just gone up and up and up and up, and I don't see a reason why that would really change. And that's coming from someone who owns zero real estate and has never done that. So I'm just starting to like think about this more and more. Like, is this what I really need to be? It seems like one of those things where real estate is just so simple that it's almost like, oh no, this is just like, people have figured this out. There's no more meat on the bone. There's no more money to be made. But then it just keeps going. And it's like, are we going to look back in 30 years from today or 10 years from today and be like, oh my God, those buildings were only $1.3 million, which seems crazy now, but
Right.
and it's like, I
Totally.
guess, I don't see a reason why not.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. And the owners of these properties, specifically car washes, the same with self-storage and a lot of these things, they tend to be sort of baby boomer age and just never learned marketing. They never bothered with it. They thought when you had a building, that was the marketing, and if you were just on a busy enough street, enough people would come in. They never got on board with Yelp and Google Maps and all this stuff and realized that you need to have a presence online. You need to have good ratings. You need to offer services. You need to have a friendly face standing there for when people are having trouble or you need somebody to answer the phone. Like they just never bothered with that whole end of the business. And if you can figure that out, which is ridiculously simple, frankly, you're going to have a much better business. You're going to attract a lot more customers. It's just so silly simple that I tell people about it, especially my friends who market online, who have these big complex systems of marketing on Facebook, marketing on YouTube. It's all this complexity. I tell them like, yeah, we just try to get 5-star reviews and
Yeah.
on Google.
It's interesting because everyone wants to do tech companies, sexy businesses, and kind
Yes.
of the more fun, sexy things you chase, the harder it is to compete and to outmarket people. And like
Yeah.
you're talking about like, hey, I'm just buying this car wash in Colorado, and it's like
Yeah.
literally just to do better than everyone else. You just have to go on Google Maps and like put your location
Right.
in. And yeah, it's crazy to
Right.
think it's like the sector you choose really does make it really easier, really hard. Like you don't have to be a better marketer than many
No.
people or than everyone online. You just have to stand out from
Right.
like what people were doing
Right.
30 years ago, and you're good, you know?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Exactly. Exactly. And it creates this flywheel where we have the online businesses that are very scalable, right? That's the advantage of the online businesses. Those businesses will do 16 million this year, but it's generating these profits that go into the car wash machine that basically eat all the taxes. So we don't owe taxes anymore. So it's just this amazing net worth flywheel, frankly, that I've been looking for decades. I've been trying to find like a side gig that would generate income that was fun. I looked at crypto. I looked at Amazon FBA. I like all those businesses that our generation have looked at. All that stuff. I looked at all of it and I thought, I don't know anything about crypto. I don't understand this stuff.
Yeah.
I buy Bitcoin, but I don't understand the staking and all this stuff. It feels like funny money to me. I could never make it really work. As soon as I would buy it, it would go down anyway.
That's how it is usually.
And yeah. And then Amazon FBA, it always felt like, Amazon's going to do the same thing that they do to everybody and just ruin your business eventually. And then this came along and I was like, this is it. It takes like 5 hours a week for me. It's super fun. It throws off literally like buckets of cash. We literally have these huge buckets full of quarters at the end of every week.
Physically,
And
buckets
it's super
of cash.
efficient. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I want to break down like how a car wash deal looks. So like, let's just take your first one, for example. So you found the property, it was for sale, the business and the land. How much was that? And how much do you have to go out of pocket to buy it?
Yeah, great. So the first one was $650K, and it had a profit every year, which they call in real estate, they call net operating income. It's basically profit of $65K. So in real estate, they call this the cap rate. So you basically take $65K divided by $650K, that's 10 or 0.1 actually. And as a percentage, that's called a 10 cap. Okay. So car washes that we're looking for are trading in that 10, 11, 12 cap range. Okay. And so when we found a bank, this is the other great thing about car washes and this sector is that the banks love to loan on it, right? Like go to a bank and say, hey, give me a bunch of money to start this FBA business. They would laugh you out of the room, right? Whereas a car wash, they gave me 80% of the purchase price. So we put down 20%. That was about $120K, 130, I think, after some fees. I came up with $100K. My partner came up with about 30, and we split the ownership that way. The bank came up with the rest. And here's the wild thing. I put in $120K on that one. Put in another 80 on the second one. Okay, so I put in about 200 last year. But the car washes completely nuked my $200,000 tax bill. Okay, so I already have my 200K back. I just started buying them a year ago. I already have my 200K back, and I've got all this cash flow stacking up. We paid for a big chunk of the second car wash with the proceeds of the first car wash. So it's like the ROI is already like 120, 130%. Like I tell my friends in real estate business who are trying to bang out like 15% returns and 12% returns, on like a single family rental or something, and they just can't believe it. They're just like, dude, this doesn't sound right.
Yeah, that sounds kind of like magic. That sounds like
Yeah, this bonus depreciation thing is massive, but the deal works without it too. Like it's still a really good return. It's probably a 25 to 35% return on investment without the tax savings.
wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people stay away from them because there's labor involved, there's a lot of equipment involved. It's intimidating to like the typical real estate investor
Right.
who's just used to like having a rental, and you might have to deal with collecting rent once a month or some repairs here and there. Whereas there's a daily, there's somebody working at our car washes every day. So it's more of a business than real estate in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
but it pays for itself so well that I'm happy to do the work.
So so the work you said about 5 hours a week,
Yep.
and so you bought the business with an existing staff and manager and everything.
Yes, the first one had a manager and a kind of a weekend hand, a guy that worked on the weekends. And then when we bought the second one, they were able to just slide over and manage that one too. So we that was the other advantage, is that we were able to split the labor across 2 properties now. We have since hired a third person to help coverage. What we found is that the more you have somebody on site, the more you sell, because he can walk in and say, a lot of times people will wash their car and they get pissed off that it doesn't work or something, and then they give you a 1-star review. Whereas an on-site guy can walk in and say, hey, well, use this brush, use this pre-soak, use this soap, or whatever. He'll turn that 1-star into a 5-star review and save the sale and save us a lot of what would be really a drive-off, right? Somebody who would be angry would never come back again. They actually pay for themselves very easily, and they're only making like $15 an hour, $16 an hour, so it's not a huge expense. And they're protecting the property as well too. So
you took that business, so you bought it for $650. It was making $65K a year. You said you improved some of the marketing stuff. How much is it making now, about a year later?
This year it'll make about 110,000.
Okay, so almost double, just from some simple stuff, double, as you said. And then I was looking through some of your tweets, and like you were kind of breaking down some of these deals. So the way that commercial real estate works is basically the value of the building, of the real estate, is based off of the income, right? So if you can double that income, you can actually also double the value of your real estate, right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. So now if this place makes $110,000 this year, if you divide that by the cap rate of 10%, now this place is worth 1.1 million. Okay. And if you look at that from an equity standpoint, we only put 120K into this place. We owe somewhere around let's just say $500,000. Now it's worth 1.1 million. You subtract the $500,000 we owe on the loan. That's $600,000. We turned $120,000 that we put in. Now we have $600,000 in equity.
Not to mention the $200K you got back on taxes.
Not to mention the $200K. Like all of this stuff is just compounding. This is why I'm so fired up about this business. Is that like everywhere I turn, like it just keeps getting better. So that's why we're gonna buy one or two a year and just build. It's so fun when you can see like this path to scale it, right? That's what we all want to do as entrepreneurs, right? Like we want to let's make this thing bigger.
Yeah.
Right. These kind of returns, it makes a lot of sense to do so. So one thing, if I could do a quick plug, I lay all this out at taxfreecashcow.com. I give you the entire playbook. Taxfreecashcow.com. I'll give you everything that we've learned. Videos, spreadsheets, contracts, everything is there if you want to just really go deep on this stuff.
So that's a good segue. My next question was, you've now figured out this crazy secret, great way to make money to compound. This is going to compound into, could be $100 million thing. Why are you giving away your sauce?
For one, I'll be honest, Jesse, there's guilt. Like I'm used to paying $200,000 a year in taxes, and now I have zero. I mean, this is the definition of the rich get richer, right? This
Yeah.
is the thing that middle class people complain about. All those rich people, they don't pay taxes, and I always thought that's nonsense. Rich people pay a shitload of taxes. Pardon my language. Now I'm that guy.
Now
right?
you're that rich
Now
guy
I'm the
that's not
guy.
paying taxes.
Yeah, I'm not paying any taxes. So I have a fair amount of guilt. So to negate that, first of all, I dropped off some huge checks to local charities, the local dog shelter, the local homeless shelter, um, Catholic charities, all this stuff. We did a bunch of stuff for them. But I'm also giving back on my Twitter feed. I'm giving people almost the entire playbook there. If you follow me, I'll tell you almost everything. And if you chime in on my threads and ask me a question, I'll answer. I'll tell you exactly how we did this. So I want people to do this on their own, realize these gains, and I have so many people who they book a call with me, and so many of them are on working for the man, basically, right? They have a W-2, they have a nice income, but they're trapped, right? They just can't get out of this grind. It's the definition of the rat race. They're working for a big tech company, or they're an attorney, whatever it is, and there's just no end in sight. They're gonna have to do this for the next 30 years, and they'll have a nice retirement, but it just looks like death to them, right? And so I'm coaching them how to do this on a one-on-one basis as well. And selfishly, my goal is to build a regional chain of car washes here, and then hope guys like Jesse or whoever, Bob in North Carolina, build their own little chains. They're of 5 to 10 car washes. I'll go buy their chain, right? And then eventually we'll have 200, 300, 400 car washes, and then we can sell it to the big money guys, and then we're talking about some serious cash. So that's kind of selfishly the goal as well.
So you want to go from the car wash guy to the international car wash guy,
The car wash king,
the
baby.
car wash lord, car wash god, like just
Yeah. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but you know how we are. I'm sure you're the same way. Like
Yeah.
you visioneer things into like, what is the end game here? And that's one possibility. So we'll see.
So are you selling, like when you say you're doing consulting and your site that you plugged, are you selling courses and selling your time?
Yeah. So I
Okay.
do sell the course at taxfreecashcow.com.
Okay.
And I will book one-on-one coaching for $300 an hour. And that money just goes straight into the car wash machine. Like we're just building up more car washes with that. So I do, when I say I'm giving back, I'm really talking about the Twitter feed. I'm really, it's most of the playbook is there. But people who want it in a nice package can get the course.
So one thing I'm always curious about, I'm very like ADD. I'm always trying to do a million things. I love learning new things. I
Yeah.
love talking to people about their businesses. Like you're talking about car washes. All I want to do now is go buy a car wash. But the reality of it is like, I wake up tomorrow, there's going to be some new thing that's flashy, and I still have to run my current
Totally.
businesses and film podcasts. And so like, how do you
Totally.
manage to, you had a software company, you find this car wash thing. Okay, that kind of makes sense because this is spitting profit. Maybe you felt that was capped.
Yeah.
Here's something to put the money into that can compound. But then now you're selling your time. How do you look at
Right.
that of like, why is this worth it to sell your time? Why not just go spend that time finding more car washes, compound that more? Why do you want to,
Yeah.
at the same time, why do you want to do this podcast? Why do you want to build your profile online? Like, you know, how do you think of all those things?
That's a really good question. So, for the first 10 years that I had the e-com businesses and the online businesses, I really just focused on it. And so what I was able to do was to build a sustainable sort of self-running, it's not self-running totally, but I can manage those businesses. There's 4 of them. They're all online and they all use the same staff and everything. They'll do about 16 million this year. But I can manage those on about 30 hours a week. And I have a business partner on that. He's really sort of the COO. I'm sort of CMO. And so I focused for about a decade on that machine, on building that income and that profitability. And then over the last 2 or 3 years, frankly, I was a little bit bored. And we thought about selling the business. We thought about expanding it. All those thoughts go through your mind. And so when the car washes came along, it proved to be a nice side gig so that it actually reinvigorated my energy for our primary businesses. Because now all of a sudden, every car wash I bought, I would negate so much profit or the tax burden of these other companies that it made me want to work harder on the main companies and invigorated my energy for the car washes. So that's what I said was this flywheel. The energy is building in this thing. And so why I'm doing these podcasts is I do want to create a network of people, mostly because I get a lot out of these. Talking to people like you, Jesse, is super energizing for me. And I live in the middle of nowhere in western Colorado, and I don't have a huge network. I'm building one on Twitter for sure, but I've just realized that the more I learn from people like you, the more I talk to people like you, that the more I get out of it too. So part of it is, I'll be honest with you, I do want to sell some courses and feed the car wash business. That's part of this. But I also love making contact with people like you who are talking to entrepreneurs every day. And I do feel like this is, I hope at least, this is giving back in some ways, because I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years now. And so many people help me on this journey. And I'm hoping that talks like this can help other people too. So that's sort of the impetus for doing
No, I get that.
this.
I'm a big believer in like not having a direct return on everything you're doing. And not
Right,
necessarily
right.
knowing what's coming from that. And I see this podcast
Yeah.
sort of like that too. First question people ask me all the time, oh, why are you doing that? Like, how do you monetize that? And I'm like, I don't really know. I didn't really start it with the goal
Totally.
of like, this is going to get me richer or something. It's more just like,
Right.
if you look at, I meet a lot of super rich people and like, they all want something. Like, it's very rare
Right.
that people are just content with what they have, whether they have
Right.
$1, 100,000, 1,000,000, 10 million, a billion. Everyone's like
Right.
trying to get something else.
Right.
Especially in LA, I see like the currency is not so much how rich you are a lot of the time. And
Right.
I kind of look at it like the point of getting rich is to do cool shit. And so
Exactly.
many people that get rich are trapped in working a million hours, or they sacrificed meeting people to go hard at their business that they now don't have the network to do cool shit, or they never learned
Right.
how to have fun. And
Yeah.
it's like, that's just as important. So like, I agree with you on
Totally.
that. It's not really about always the bottom line, but it's cool when it can all compound together.
Yeah. It's nice. It's nice meeting people like you so the people that inspired me really to get into commercial real estate sort of did what we're doing right now, right? They were talking about it. They were doing podcasts about it. They were giving away their playbook. And so they inspired me to do this. And now it's really changed my life. And it's like, well, I should be doing the same thing. It's really not difficult. It doesn't take much time. And if it helps just a couple people change their life, change their W-2, get out of the grind or whatever that is for them, then it's worth it.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about people who are bringing sort of like brick and mortar real estate, old school business knowledge onto Twitter and online is like the competition doesn't really matter. Like if you teach someone your exact playbook,
Right.
like you have your nice business just owning a couple in Colorado, and you can expand that to outside and whatever, but there's still enough car washes in America
Yeah.
for me to copy exactly what you do in LA and not affect you at all. Whereas like your supplement
Totally.
business, you probably don't want to give your whole secret sauce and your whole
True.
marketing away, because like your potential market is like the internet, which like, I
Right.
could go start a competing thing and take away your market share. But like for real
Dude,
estate,
totally.
it's not like that. I think that's interesting.
That's 100% accurate too. And the more people that I could sort of build up in this business, we would only help each other, because we would, if we can create sort of a network where we help each other with equipment or like there's a lot of chemicals you got to buy. So we could buy chemicals together. We could we could form a franchise system. There's a million things to do, and it's all positive that we could do nationwide. So if there was other people in this business, it would only help me too. So
Yeah, it's interesting. Do you think the car wash business would work as well in a place like LA or New York, or is it because you're in kind of a small town Colorado that it works better?
no, it's this model that we're looking at. So we look at the smaller car washes that have like 3 self-serve bays, and then on one side there's usually an automatic. It's usually like a touchless, right? We're not looking at these big long tunnel washes where you get on a conveyor belt and it pulls your car through, and they're generally kind of expensive, or you're on some sort of monthly membership thing. So
Yeah,
we're
I'm
looking at
wondering
the
now,
smaller
like
ones.
the ones that I go to near my house, they're like those big ones, and they're in a really expensive area in LA. I wonder
Right.
like how much those would be to buy.
Those are probably in LA. It's probably anywhere from 5 to 10 million bucks.
That's what I would guess. Yeah.
Right. So we're focused on this sort of lower market where we're focused on the vehicles that can never go through those things. So a contractor's truck, a lifted pickup truck, somebody with a bike rack, somebody with a ski rack, somebody who just doesn't like those things, because a lot of those car washes have scratched people's cars. So they love the touch-free. There's this whole segment of the population that's a touch-free, like religion. Like my mom, like she got a scratch on her car in a tunnel wash in like
Yeah,
2008.
my dad's the same. He
She'll
tells me.
never go back. Yeah, she'll never go back. So we're focused on a different market that's never going to go away. The types of vehicles. Like I go in my town and I stop at a stop sign. Now I'm hooked on this. I count how many cars cannot go through a tunnel wash, and it's at least half of them. Bigger trucks, RVs, somebody with a trailer, right? You've got an ATV or UTV. So we're focused on a different market, so that's never going to go away. So in LA, it's probably fewer people that have those type of limitations. There's a higher percentage of cars that can go through a tunnel, but there's always going to be vehicles and always going to be people who don't like them. So I think the future is pretty bright for our type of car wash.
Yeah, it's interesting. And when you say you spend 5 hours a week, like what kind of things do you actually have to do? Is it just like
Yeah.
showing up and being like, okay, the manager's doing his job type thing, or?
No, it's I do a little bit on the marketing. So we have Google AdWords through with Google Maps and Google My Business. I monitor that. That's pretty self-running though, so that's like probably 20 minutes a week. There's usually some sort of bigger, what I would call value add project we're undergoing. So at the car wash we bought in November, the equipment's pretty run down. So we need to upgrade the automatic equipment there. So we're looking at how to do that, where to get the equipment, and who will install it. So right now, that's what my other probably 4.5 hours a week is doing. Other times, we're looking at other car washes. We're looking at other deals. I'm going out to lunch with a guy on Friday who's going to sell his car wash later this year, and so I'm sort of schmoozing him. You know, I want him to come to us to sell that car wash. So it's more the deal making, big picture stuff, marketing, and then my partner who does about 5 hours a week. Up until a few weeks ago, he was doing payroll and bookkeeping, but he's not even doing that anymore. He's more interested in the operations, so he kind of oversaw this new guy we hired, even though the other guys found him, and he was more involved with getting some of the repairs done. He's going to help them fix a sign that got damaged by wind. So we're really not involved on the day-to-day stuff at all. The guys take care of that, and it's so simple. This is the nice thing about car washes too, is it's so simple. If you get a pissed off customer, you just give them their $3 back, and it's fine. Right? There's no big emergencies at these things. There's never a call like, "Oh my God, what are we gonna do?"
Is it actually
It's
$3
so
to
narrow.
get a car wash?
Yeah, well, if you're doing the self-serve, right? If you're doing
yeah,
the
yeah.
self-serve with the wand and everything, yeah, the average ticket is like $3.
I was gonna say, I
So
think
if
I paid
somebody's
30,
mad,
but
yeah, yeah, but so it's just a simple business.
interesting. And have you had any emergencies or things like, oh, I didn't think of that, but this guy quit. This guy didn't show up to work. this equipment broke and this is $50,000 to replace, and I didn't really factor that in. Has anything like that
Yeah.
come up?
So this upgrade that we're doing is going to be about 45, 50,000. Funny you threw out that number. But we have enough income from the car washes to pay for that. We may have to put just a little bit in. But and then one guy or a kid in his mom's Escalade drove right through our vacuum stands at one car wash, blasting out the vacuum. So we had like an insurance claim on that. But it turned out we made a little bit of money on that insurance claim because they gave us a bunch. We didn't need it all, but nothing really. I'm sure there'll be something someday. I'll be like, oh man, never saw that coming. That's kind of a kick to the nuts. But so far, it's been simple stuff. And my attitude was honed a long time ago with entrepreneurship and business in general is that I look at problems as opportunities. I'm excited for problems. If somebody were to quit tomorrow, I would say, great, let's find somebody better at this job. Let's get it. This is an opportunity for us to get better. Every day, every problem is an opportunity for us to get better. So I like it when they call with problems.
Yeah. I think of it more in terms of like, which problems do you want to have? So when you pick a business or start a new business or add something, it's like you're picking your potential problems. Like, I had a cookie company for a long time, and like those problems were like I was physically in the bakery going in like sweating and like pulling burnt cookies off the thing and being like, you guys fucked this whole lineup, we got to redo it. And I'm like eating a lot of cookies, and those problems are different than like having online businesses.
Right.
It's for you to decide, so
yeah, exactly.
You might be now your problems are more in person
at
the wash, but just different.
Yeah. No, that's a good way to look at it. Just what kind of problems do you want to deal with? And the better you are at dealing with them, the better your business will be. So.
Yeah. But then I think, okay, so you're saying the car wash problems have not been so bad so far.
No, and I'm in these forums. There's like a car wash forum. There's a Facebook group and all this stuff. So I'm sort of monitoring the major problems. Some of the other stuff that can come up is, one guy had a tunnel wash move right in next to his car wash, literally next door. And so I've been watching this guy wondering like, I wonder if he's going to be out of business here pretty soon. Turned out his business went up because the tunnel wash was attracting all these customers. They did all this advertising. The tunnel wash will kick you out of the tunnel wash line if you're too dirty. Oh. They don't want the dirt on their brushes because then it'll scratch the car behind you. Oh. So they're very picky. You can only be kind of dirty at a tunnel wash. So they were kicking him out of their line, and they'd go next door to him.
Interesting.
And so they became like this car wash destination in his town. So I'm constantly on the lookout. I'm looking for problems that'll arise, and so far, no big deal. But I'm sure there'll be something, and we'll deal with that too.
How much is insurance? Because I was thinking about that the other day. I got my car washed. I got it detailed actually, so it was like a $200 detail. And I get back to pick up my car, and I look, and like I have a huge gash of paint missing on the side, and they were
wow.
Oh, it's not our fault. All we did was put the hose, but your paint must have been messed up. And I don't know a lot about cars. And I'm just like,
right.
All right, I don't like think that my paint, because it would have fallen off before. But like, so now I'm in this thing where it's like, I got to chase them down. So I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I wonder what kind of insurance they have and how they prevent that, right? It's like, because I'm going to come after and be like, no, you guys probably did this when you were washing my car when I wasn't there. And for some reason, I took a picture before I left and after. So I literally have a picture from an hour before in their car wash with nothing missing, and then an hour after. And I don't know why I did that, but it was just like,
Smart.
And so now I'm wondering, like, how does that get covered? How does that work? So as a business owner, like...
Yeah, so the insurance per site is only like about, I think it's like about $3,000 or $4,000 a year at each site. So it's pretty low. Because we have touch free, and we're not touching your car, right? Like our automatic isn't even touching your car. If you're going into a self-serve bay, then it's you that are washing your car. And so the biggest complaint is actually that there's not enough pressure, or that it's not doing enough to my car. So we haven't had the claims problems, but I know that at these big tunnel washes, yeah, they're probably filing at least one claim a month of something like that. You damaged my car. Most of that damage will come out with a good body shop can kind of buff things out. But that's why I mentioned earlier that a tunnel wash will kick you out of the line if you're just too dirty. In your case, like at a detail shop, that is bizarre. I don't even know how they did that, but you should just say, yeah, you got to file a claim with your insurance. Go get an estimate for how much it's going to take to fix it, and they should absolutely fix it. That's on them.
Okay. So back to your numbers for a sec, just to understand
Yeah.
that deal again. On a monthly basis, what's like the cash flow versus the mortgage and kind of the overhead costs? I'm just curious
Yeah.
how that breaks out.
Yeah. So when I mentioned the net operating income of 65K, and then I mentioned we brought it up to 110K, that is before your mortgage. Okay. In real estate, you don't factor, at least in the value of the property, you don't factor the mortgage into that.
So that's your
So
revenue minus your employees overhead, that kind of stuff.
yes, and all the chemicals and the insurance and the property taxes.
Okay.
But it does not include the actual mortgage. So on the first property that we bought for 650, that'll do 110K this year. The mortgage on that is like I want to say it's like 3K a month. So you take the 110K minus the 36K a month. Second property, the mortgage is like 3,600 or something a month. So the actual cash, which is what you're asking, which is a great question, actual cash generated at those places at each location will probably be around 60 to 70K in cold hard cash that we'll have left over. But we're paying ourselves a monthly salary, pretty low one right now, but most of that money we're going to pour into buying more car washes.
Build that car wash conglomerate. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
baby.
And
Car
then,
wash king.
and then when you say so like we were talking about the real estate valuation doubling because it's based off the revenue of the property.
Yeah.
Does that always actually work out? Like, would you have a buyer right now at 1.1 or whatever, or is that more?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think so. Although the car wash we bought first, like I said, it had been on the market for a year, but it had been neglected a little bit too. So we think the fact that we've built this thing up, it would be more attractive. So yeah, it might take you a while, but I absolutely think you could sell it. It might not be quite as high as you'd like because now the interest rates are kind of a problem. The interest rates, when we bought our first one, I think we got a 2.9%. Right now, if we tried to finance that same property, it'd be like 7.75.
Crazy.
So that brings down the value a little bit of these types of properties. So that's why we're just going to hold them for longer. And we're going to build up this big conglomerate of them too. Because if you have 12 individual car washes and you sold them individually, they would sell for less than a chain of 12 because that is a bigger enterprise. It's just a bigger organization.
It's like
And
the
those will sell
classic
for better
PE
multiples.
play, right? Just like rolling up individuals,
Exactly.
getting systems in place, maybe branding
Totally.
them, and you're going to brand
Centralized
them all the
office.
same.
What's that?
You're gonna brand them all the same, like it's going to become a chain of one brand.
Yeah, most likely, yeah.
Do you have a name for it yet, or?
Yeah, so the name is Stop Wash Go. So the two locations we have now are Stop Wash Go, and you could if you wanted to see them, you could see it at stopwashgo.com.
Nice.
Not a lot on that website. You don't really need a fancy website for a car wash. But yeah, we will brand them all under that name going forward.
Nice. So you're doing this personal brand thing we were talking about a little before.
Yes.
And you only started last year and you're the car wash guy. Why did you not become the software or the supplement guy before, since you were doing that so many years and sounds like it's a very profitable, pretty big business?
Yeah. I was in e-com and direct response Twitter for years before I ever got into car washes. And I don't know. There was I don't know. It was funny. Part of my marketing is you just go with what works. right? So I was sort of business advice guy on Twitter for a long time, and I was sharing my wins and knowledge from the e-com businesses for years, and it would just kind of get get a few likes, maybe a retweet here and there. I got a few followers out of it. The minute I started talking about car washes, it just caught fire, and I still don't understand why. But I would do a thread on the car wash, and I would get 400 followers, where it would take me an entire year of talking about supplements to get that. And so when I started talking about the tax benefits in January, it really caught fire, and I was like, maybe I should just be the car wash guy. Rebranded to that, and since then I think I've tripled. I think I started off with 5,000 followers or so, and since I've done the car wash guy, now I'm right at like 15,000 or something. It's bizarre, but
It's just another more evidence that the more niche you go, the more attractive
Exactly.
it is for people. And
Exactly.
car washes are just so easy to understand that I think
Exactly.
everybody's just looking for that kind of magic where it's like, I understand this business. I understand this profit. This guy's laying it out in front of me. And
Exactly.
yeah, I think a lot of the internet marketing stuff is like above people's kind of comprehension. And it's like,
Yes.
oh, that couldn't be me, whereas like car wash is like, it literally could be anyone.
Yeah, you nailed it. It seems like anybody can do it, which is pretty close to the truth. And when they see car wash guy, they see instantly who I am and what I'm talking about. And so if they have the even remote interest in that, they're like, I'll go ahead and follow. Whereas if I was like e-com DTC supplement guy, they'd be like, what is that? Like, I
Yeah.
don't even know what this guy's doing. I don't know if I want to follow him or not. So it's just a super simple value proposition for most people. It's wild.
How many different products on the e-com supplement thing do you have, or how many different companies or brands?
It's really like three companies. We have a financial newsletter list with another guy from Twitter, Spirit of Pines. I don't know if you're familiar with the Pine Baron, but partners with him on that. Then we have the supplement company, which sells CBD. There's about 20 different SKUs in there, everything from pain relief, blood sugar support, that kind of thing. And then we have a newsletter list that's like political news, which is kind of an ad arbitrage thing. You get a lead, and then you try to show ads to that lead that they will click on, that will hopefully pay for that lead and plus profit. So sort of it sounds like a weird mix of businesses, but they're all completely 100% online, and they really just have the same staff, same customer support staff, same technical software developer. So they're easy businesses to run. I love online businesses because we found out one business was really struggling like 6 weeks ago. We dove in, did a bunch of firefighting, and already it's showing just massive improvement. So that's one of the advantages of those businesses. They're fairly easy to turn around.
Definitely an interesting portfolio.
Yeah, it's random, right? It's super random. When I tell people what I do, they're like, "What?"
I want to flip to how you spend your money for a second. I'm always curious, people who do really well in business and are able to compound and find these vehicles to compound and get richer and richer. Like, what do you like to spend your money on? And what are some of the best purchases you've made in the last few years?
I'm really into mountain biking. Where I live is sort of mountain biking Shangri-La. So I have a mountain bike that probably cost 4 times more than my first car. So I spend money on that. I have a nice truck. Like it's probably 3 or 4 years old. What I mainly do is we fix up our house. We don't live in a big fancy house, but we like to fix it up. We're putting in a swimming pool. That's probably the biggest
Nice.
expense I'll ever have, other than real estate. And we do a lot of experiences. Travel for us I have fairly little kids. They're 5 and 9. So getting to show them, we live close to a ton of national parks. So we have a travel trailer that I pull with my truck, and we go to these national parks. So, travel is definitely important for us. I'm not a huge stuff guy. Like, my mountain bike, I definitely invest a lot of money in. My wife has a really expensive mountain bike. But other than that, I don't have a ton of stuff. I could see us getting maybe a mountain condo someday, or a mountain house, maybe a beach condo or something. But for now, to be honest, most of my sort of free cash is going to go into this car wash business because it's so lucrative. And I do crypto and like stocks. I just buy Apple stock. So nothing too exciting, unfortunately.
So what? So when you say like this can compound, we said this could compound to $100 million car wash portfolio. What's like your goal? Is it a number? Is it to leave your kids with a certain amount of money? Is it to just
Yeah.
not worry about money? Like, what is the goal with all of it?
My goal is just to build cool shit. I don't have a number in mind so much as I just want to be building. I love creating value. I love making things better. It's insanely satisfying to buy a property, no matter what it is, a car wash or a duplex or whatever it is, and to make it look better, to improve this property, to improve the neighborhood. Same with our health products. Make people feel better, right? So doing that and then building wealth with that is just fun. So I honestly, like when some people say, "What's your number?" I don't have one. It's just going to be. It sounds weird, but the number is just more, right? So when I'm 20 years from now, if I'm still doing this, I won't have a number. It's just going to be a little bit more. As long as I'm having fun, as long as I have free time, as long as I'm choosing what I'm doing, I'm just going to keep going. I don't really have a number where I'm going to stop, right? I don't see myself doing a traditional retirement at all.
Hmm.
Laying on the beach and windsurfing or something like that on a full-time basis sounds really boring to me. I actually sort of retired after my first business in 2000. I sold my first business in 2008. I moved off the grid to the mountains of Colorado, solar and wind powered home. We just said goodbye to the rat race, and my plan there was to do this sort of semi-retirement and snowboard all the time and travel. And I got bored really fast with that. So I just like to build stuff, and I think maybe someday I'll turn more into building like nonprofits, that kind of thing, instead of for-profit businesses. But I think I'll always have to build something.
That's a good answer. I think that's really what it is. It's like playing bigger and bigger games, playing different games.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
challenge.
I want to start asking this to every guest that comes on. So
Okay.
do you feel rich? And if yes, when did you feel rich? And if not, when do you think you'll feel rich?
Yeah, I do. And I think it happened a few years ago when I told my wife we went on a vacation to this resort, and we were still in the mode of like looking at the prices of everything, and you doing this mental calculation in your head of how much you're spending, and it was kind of ruining our vacation. Like it was like there was this stress because we ended up at this resort and like everything was stupid expensive, and like a drink was like $20, and so my wife is slugging them down, and I'm doing this mental calculation of like, oh my god, she just drank $100 worth of booze, and then I got to put a tip on that, and then I realized like this is stupid. Like we can afford this. I don't want to do this every month. I don't want to do this even like every 3 months, but we can afford it. It's fine. So right then and there, I said, stop looking at the prices. Let's just enjoy this. We'll worry about the expense when we get home. And when we got home, it turned out it wasn't that bad. So that's when I really started feeling wealthy. Was like, I don't have to worry. I don't have to be doing that mental budgeting. We still try to be frugal. We don't spend money just to spend money. But when we go on vacation or when we decide to splurge, we stop worrying about the prices. And that is extremely freeing. If a car breaks down, or, my son needed an expensive medical procedure recently, it was so nice just just to say, do it. Just do it. Like, there's no hesitation. You don't have to look at your bank account and say, oh boy, you know. So I hope that I can help a lot of people get there because it's incredibly freeing. Like, a lot of people say, well, money won't make you happy. Well, there is an amount of money that will make you happier, right? It will relieve stress. You won't have to worry about certain things, you know, medical things, or you can go on a vacation and just let loose. And I want to help a lot of more people get there. And that's one reason I'm doing stuff like this. So I think that's when it happened for me.
Yeah, I think it sounds like you have a great grasp on it. I think that's going to be a really interesting question to ask people because
Yes.
I feel like I've met people who don't have a lot of money, yet they live
Yeah.
free because they live within their means and they just live, you know, free and they feel rich. And then I've met people who literally have hundreds of millions of dollars that feel like they need to grind and still worry about things because
Right.
you know, it might not be their sandwich is too expensive, but they're like thinking like, is this company going to survive? Is our burn too high?
Yes.
And yeah, it's really
Right.
interesting. And when you think about it, like sometimes you look at people from an outside perspective and you're like, I know how much money you have. Why are you worrying about this? And it goes the other way too, where sometimes poor people are worried, or, you know, poor, I'm saying people who have way less money and they're worrying about
Yeah.
things like the price of a coffee. And it's like, that's not going to make you richer by worrying about that anyway. So it's kind of like the same answer for everyone. But
Yeah.
it's interesting, I think.
Yeah. I think for me it's just not getting caught up in the comparison games. I think the people who have $100 million are ultimately miserable because they're comparing themselves to the billionaires, right?
Yeah.
They think these guys have so much more than me. They have the plane and the island and the, you know, and they have all this influence and all this stuff and all this status, and we just, as a family, we just don't play those games, or we try not to. So we don't get caught up in the comparison. The business I build and the money I make is really for our personal satisfaction. I hope to pass off a bunch of it to our kids. I hope to build a nicer community here and help charities do their mission. But I'm not caught up in, oh, do I drive a better truck? Am I in a bigger house? Do I take nicer vacations? Is my company bigger? Am I richer? You know, if I stay away from those games, my happiness level is just always going to be high. So if we did go broke, if all of this comes crashing down, we'll still be very happy people. We'll have to live in a smaller place and we'll be just fine.
I think that's a good answer and a good way to wrap. So
Nice, man.
I appreciate talking to you. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks, Jesse.